Yeah, I've been interested in Buddhism for a long time and studied and have gone to retreats. Actually, I've spoken briefly with you some years ago.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
and I've studied Pure Land, I've studied Theravada, I've studied uh, various Mahayana practices and Vajrayana. I've gone to Buddhist, um, like I said, retreats. I've been to a Buddhist monastery, a Theravadan monastery. I've been to Christian monasteries. I've explored lots of things, and actually over 20 years ago, I actually, when I was 20 years old, so about 24 years ago
Mm.
almost, I converted to Islam when I was young, and practiced the Sufi version of Islam for a number of years, and was quite committed to that for a while. But then I started to develop a what I would call like a cognitive dissonance with the whole idea of a creator God and what you see in the world. And I just sort of went away from that quite naturally, not a huge dramatic break, because actually I married and had a family, and my kids are still, identify as Muslims and things, but they know I'm a little bit different. And I'm not together with my wife anymore, but I have 5 kids. And
They are Muslims. They are
yes.
Muslims.
Mm-hmm.
Your wife also, your ex-wife,
Yes.
oh,
Mm-hmm.
also Muslim. Mhm.
Yeah. And I so then I studied philosophy and literature, things like this, but then I wanted to get more back into something spiritual. So I started looking into Buddhism, and what made a lot of sense to me. But probably like many of us here, after understanding the basics and doing various practices, I saw my own shortcomings are are just hard to get around. My self power isn't there. My power uh, to commit to practices. It's the same issue I had sort of um, with theistic religion, because I used to pray to God all the time to make me right, make me steadfast, but still I would fall always, or I wouldn't wake up on time when I should be waking up so early in the morning, and very similar things. So, and once I started to learn more about Pure Land, at first, like a lot of people that got into Buddhism, I was uh, dismissive of Pure Land, but then I started to take more interest in it and read, and mostly through at first Chinese Pure Land masters. And I went to a 3-day Amitabha retreat in Chicago some years ago, probably like 2017, and uh, practiced there and things. But then when I started reading more about Shinran and things, I really liked Shinran. It's taken me a while to kind of accept it, but with time, I'm just getting closer to understanding it and accepting it more, that it's just total and trusting, I don't know why it's so hard to just totally entrust, but you feel like you need to be doing something, but I'm starting to realize strongly the futility of that. Because I'm nothing. I'm a bamboo to the T, you know. I've read hundreds of books, I've done lots of things, but still my core personality that I've always had, maybe I've made some moral improvements over time, like not drinking and becoming a vegetarian and things like this, but those haven't changed my overall mental states. Uh, so, anyways, that's why I've come to be more and more interested in Shin Buddhism and wanting to look into committing myself to that path, because I don't want to be born in Samsara again. That's I deeply believe in reincarnation, and uh, it just intuitively makes sense to me, and I see the cycle of matter and everything else, and the sufferings, the little bit of pleasures we have mostly don't compare to the sufferings, honestly, in samsara. This samsaric world is just always, it's relentless. It's just a wheel just never turning. I was influenced a lot when I studied philosophy by Schopenhauer and the idea of the will just pushing and always wanting to exert the will of life or whatever, but the samsaric existence just goes on without any sort of plan or design. I mean, I believe now that it's our collective karma that forwards it on, and manifest it, but it doesn't have any design or purpose other than to just exert itself. But I want to be outside of all that. So I want to find something that takes me away from that, so I don't have to be born here again. So that's why I've gotten more interested in Zen. I mean, not Zen, Shin. And I've read, a lot of Shinran, and I've always, even before I decided to start looking and committing to it, I thought, he's a spiritual genius and a man who's very obviously very, knows what he's talking about, and got looked into the Metta Dharma more so than anybody, and brought out the true flowering of its meaning. So, yeah. Anyways,
have you read a lot of Renyo? Have you
I haven't read as much of Renyo, but yeah,
I would highly suggest checking him out.
yeah, just a little bit in Joshua Adrian's books. Yeah, I will.
He really simplifies a lot of the things, a lot of the questions we ask. So that's why I recommend you might want to check out Master Shin Renyo.
A couple of books that started to turn my mind towards Pure Land probably were more, ecumenical or philosophical, like the Buddha of Infinite Light by Suzuki. Is that the name of the book? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Can you please repeat the title?
I think it's called The Buddha of Infinite Light. It's by D.T. Suzuki.
I didn't read it. I just saw some passages from Suzuki that were not quite in correct.
Now, in retrospect, I know that. Yeah. And but that, and there was a book by Jodo Shinshu priest in Australia who has a Greek last name. But those were influential to me in starting to look towards Pure Land, because I come from sort of a philosophical and heady background, so they got me to sort of intellectually accept some things. But like, we're all sort of saying here, after a while, you realize that it's not enough, just to intellectually understand this or that, or think how this could work metaphysically, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't really, saying the Pure Land is in my mind. Well, when I look in my mind, I see mostly garbage, so where is it in there? I don't see it, and what does that mean? I understand maybe we all have a Buddha nature. I get that, but it's clouded by so much samsaric dust and filth that, I mean, it's that Buddha nature that it connects us to Amida through his vow, but it's not enlightened yet. Obviously, that's why we're here. Like you said, if you're enlightened, if the Pure Land's in your mind, save a sentient being, you can't do it. So, but those sort of books, some of them helped me they did get me into it, but now I wouldn't attend any of those sort of sanghas or anything like that, because I think it's ultimately not salvational. You know what I mean? It's well, of course you know what I mean, but it helped me sort of make my way into Pure Land intellectually, but I saw the limitations of it pretty quickly too. You're just going to end up being, like you said, a book club, where you're just talking about something philosophical, but not really doing much to you know, for your, you know, to try to get out of samsara, you know, to try to get out of this prison planet.
Yes, many Buddhists, so-called Buddhists nowadays, don't have the aspiration to become a Buddha. And without the aspiration to become a Buddha, there is no Buddhism. And if they don't have that aspiration, they are not Buddhists. That's very important. You have to want to get out of samsara, to deeply want that, to understand that samsara is suffering, to want to end it, put it an end now. Don't just practice meditation and in the next life I will become a human being again and practice again. I have no patience with that. I want to become a Buddha quickly. I don't have patience with practices that promise me something in the future. And if I am, no, I want to end it now. As you said, Nikolai, we can't be sure that in the next life we'll become humans again. The spiritual path is not a straight line now to nirvana. We can always fall when we have the feeling that we go up, you know, the wrong impression that we advance. We can always lose whatever we attain. That's why impermanence in Jodo Shinshu is the understanding that, of course, we can die anytime. Attention here, anytime, even now. See? And that also our so-called spiritual realizations are impermanent and we cannot rely on them. We can always lose whatever we think we gain. And I have the feeling that I have never gained anything. I just came closer to the understanding that I need Amida's helping hand, that I need to accept it. That's the only thing that I understand and I can do. There is nothing else I can do. If there was no primal vow, I couldn't be a Buddhist. Buddhism without the primal vow, Buddhism would be just a nice discourse for the elites, for the nice guys in robes, smiling monks who are always calm and serene, and they don't, I don't know, they don't think, they don't even like women. I don't know. They are not tempted by anything, you know. They don't drink, they don't smoke, they don't curse, they don't do anything bad. You know, that's it's impossible for me. Sorry, that's not for me.